Grace, Marcus wants you to sign a document. My husband's secretary, Liam, respectfully placed a stack of documents in front of me. The top page prominently displayed 4 bold characters, divorce. I put down my pen and looked up at him. Are you sure Mr. Marcus sent you with this? I asked him with a hint of hesitation. Liam nodded, his eyes slightly evasive. Yes, Mr. Marcus said you'd understand once you saw it. I turned to the first page, and the property division section almost made me laugh aloud. All real estate belonged to Marcus, all savings belonged to Marcus, all company shares belonged to Marcus. And I, as the other party in this 3-year marriage, would only receive a car and $200,000 cash. Interesting, I closed the agreement. Till I agree to the divorce. Liam paused, clearly not expecting me to agree so readily. But there's a condition. I picked up the pen again and drew a circle on the last page of the agreement. Tell him to discuss it with me in person. Tonight at 8, same old spot. Liam took the agreement and hurried away. I was left alone in the executive office. I pulled open a drawer and retrieved a manila envelope from the very bottom. Inside the envelope was a photocopy of a marriage. The groom was my husband, Marcus, but the bride was another woman, Chloe. The marriage date was listed as June 15th, 3 years ago. My certificate with Marcus, however, was dated June 18th of the same year, a full 3 days later. What this meant was self-evident. Marcus and I had known each other for 5 years and been married for 3. Throughout these 3 years, he had been good to me, regularly transferring living expenses each month, always buying gifts for holidays, and even remembering my menstrual cycle precisely. The only problem was that he was always busy. So busy that we only met a few times a month, so busy that he never stayed overnight at my place, and so busy that he didn't even have time to accompany me on our honeymoon. I had always thought this was normal for a career-driven man, until last month when I saw intimate photos of him and another woman at an upscale. The woman was pregnant, and Marcus was supporting her, his eyes filled with a tenderness I had never seen before. Later, I hired someone to investigate the woman. The private detective's report was very detailed. Chloe, 28 years old, graduated from a prestigious university, and was currently 7 months pregnant. Her and Marcus's marital home was a mansion valued at $8 million, and they had been living together for 3 years. And I, his legal wife, lived in a cozy Marcus bought for me, valued at $1.5 million, like a kept. I then called Robert. Robert, it's me. A familiar voice came from the other end of the line. Grace, what made you call Robert? Did that scoundrel bully you? I took a deep breath. Robert, I'm getting a divorce. Marcus has another wife and a child. Our marriage was a joke from the start. The line fell silent instantly. I knew Robert was trying to suppress his anger. That's just how he was. The angrier he got, the calmer he became. What do you need me to do? Help me look into all of Marcus's business dealings over the past 3 years, including his company's cash flow. Also, starting tomorrow, terminate all collaborations with Chen. He doesn't deserve any of this. All right. Anything else? I looked out at the metro city as evening lights appeared, a cold smile playing on my lips. Since he's so eager to get rid of me, I'll grant him his wish. But there will be a price for him to pay. At 7:50 p.m., I arrived punctually at the lounge at Horizon. This was where Marcus and I had our first date, and also where he proposed to me. Choosing this place to discuss our divorce felt like a final memorial to this absurd marriage. Marcus was already waiting there, dressed in the Armani suit I had bought for him, his hair meticulously combed, just like the rising business star who had captivated me 3 years ago. You're here. He stood up, about to pull out a chair, but I stopped him. No need to be so formal. We'll be strangers soon. I sat down directly and placed the divorce on the table. I've already signed it. A flicker of surprise crossed Marcus's eyes, quickly followed by unconcealed delight. Grace, thank you for being so understanding. I know this must be sudden for you. Sudden? I interrupted him. Marcus, we've known each other for 5 years. Do you think I understand you? He nodded. Of course, you're the one who understands me best. Then do you think, given my personality, I would let someone who betrayed me off so easily? Marcus's expression froze. He began to realize that things might not be as simple as he imagined. I took the photocopy of the marriage from my bag and gently placed it in front of him. Chloe. A nice woman. 7 months pregnant now, isn't she? Is it a boy or a girl? Marcus instantly became enraged upon seeing it. He reached out to take the photocopy, but I held his hand down. When did you find out? How I found out isn't important now, is it? I released his hand and leaned back in my chair. What matters is, what are you going to do? Marcus tried to calm himself. Grace, I admit I cheated. But as pregnant, I can't abandon her. I'll give you $200,000 as a divorce settlement, as my compensation to you. I scoffed, then stood up, looking down at him. Marcus, do you know what kind of life I've lived these past 3 years? I waited for you like a fool, turning down all social engagements and rejecting all suitors for you. I thought I was your only one, only to find out I wasn't even a stand-in. Marcus tried to explain something, but I waved my hand, stopping him. But it's all right. Let bygones be bygones. I came here today to tell you something. As I spoke, I took a document from my bag and pushed it across to him. Marcus picked up the document, puzzled. The moment he saw the contents of the document, he was completely stunned. How is this possible? I smiled, the first genuine smile of the evening. Surprised, aren't you? I was quite surprised myself. I never thought that this little woman who in your eyes only deserved a $200,000 divorce settlement, would turn out to be the sole heir of Vance. Marcus's hand trembled as he held the document. Vance. Are you talking about the Vance, worth hundreds of billions? There's no other Vance in this metro city, I said, picking up the red wine in front of me and taking a small sip. And by the way, I have good news for you. Starting tomorrow, Vance will completely cease all cooperation with Chen. 60% of your company's business comes from Vance. With that gone, how long do you think Chen can last? Marcus was utterly dumbfounded. He looked at me as if seeing me for the first time. Grace, why did you never say anything? I countered, in these 3 years, have you ever asked about my family, my work, or anything about me? In your eyes, I was just a little woman you needed to support. Marcus, I've signed the divorce, and I won't take a single cent from you. I stood up, preparing to leave. But you must pay the price for your betrayal. Enjoy the days to come, I'm sure they'll be quite interesting. As I walked out of the restaurant, I heard Marcus calling my name behind me, but I didn't look back. The next morning, I was woken by a phone call. Ms. Grace, there's a problem. My assistant, Sarah, said urgently. All the major media outlets are reporting your divorce. There are so many reporters surrounding the company lobby right now. I know. I'll be right there. After washing up, I changed into a black power suit. If I was reappearing as the heir of Vance, I needed to have the appropriate presence. Sure enough, many reporters had gathered outside Vance Tower. When they saw me, they immediately swarmed forward. Ms. Grace, what is the real reason for why? Our divorce from Mr. Marcus? There are rumors that Mr. Marcus has another woman. Is that true? Ms. Grace, will this divorce affect the cooperation between your two companies? I stopped, faced the cameras, and said calmly, regarding personal matters, I prefer not to elaborate. As for the cooperative relationship between Vance and Chen, it certainly needs to be re-evaluated. After saying this, I entered the building escorted by my bodyguards. In the elevator, Sarah reported the latest situation. Ms. Grace, Chen's stock price dropped by 15% at market open today. Mr. Marcus is downstairs, wanting to see you. No, I replied curtly. Also, inform the legal department to prepare to recall all funds loaned to Chen. Isn't this a bit too harsh? Sarah asked, a little worried. I glanced at her. Sarah, do you think a man who has a wife and child outside of his marriage, and conceals it from his legal wife for 3 years, deserves sympathy? Sarah immediately fell silent. When I arrived at the executive office, Robert, Vance's founder and one of the most influential businessmen in this metro city, was already waiting for me. Robert, I walked over and hugged him. I'm sorry you had to go through this. Robert patted my back. I've already looked into Marcus's background. That guy is indeed no good. I sat on the sofa. What did you find? It's not just bigamy. Robert handed me an investigation report. Take a look at this. I opened the report, growing more alarmed with each page. For the past 3 years, Marcus had been leveraging my identity to pave the way for his business. Each time Vance offered preferential terms for cooperation to Chen, he used it as leverage to inflate his value with other companies. Not only that, but he also took out loans totaling over $500 million from multiple banks under my husband's name. Who were the guarantors for these loans? I asked. Nominally, it was Chen, but the actual guarantee was Vance's rep. Utation, Robert's expression was serious. If Group can't repay these debts, the creditors will come after us. I understood. Marcus hadn't just betrayed me emotionally, he had used me as his cash cow. There's more. Robert flipped to the last page of the report. The down payment for the mansion he shared with Chloe was paid using the cooperation deposit we gave him. That house is now worth $15 million, while our deposit was only $5 million. I was absolutely furious. This man had not only betrayed my feelings but also stolen my money. Robert, I want him to cough up all the money. That might not be easy, Robert shook his head. All of his assets have now been transferred to Chloe's name, including that mansion. Even with a lawsuit, it will be difficult for us to recover all the losses. Just then, the secretary knocked and entered. Ms. Grace, Mr. Marcus of Chen is downstairs and says he has something important to discuss with you. Robert and I exchanged glances. Robert nodded. Let him come up. I want to see what else this guy has to say. 10 minutes later, Marcus was brought into the executive office. He looked much more haggard, his eyes bloodshot, clearly not having slept well. Seeing my Robert present, Marcus was visibly nervous. Hello, uncle, he greeted proactively. Robert stared at him coldly, offering no response. Grace, I know you're angry right now, but can we talk in private? Marcus looked at me, his eyes pleading. Say whatever you have to say right here. I leaned back in my chair. Robert also wants to hear what his good son-in-law has to say. Marcus gritted his teeth, seemingly having made a decision. Grace, I admit I made a mistake, but is truly innocent. And so? My voice was calm. I want to beg you, can you give me some time? I'll handle this. Handle what? I stood up and walked over to him. Leave and come back to me? Or do you want me to continue being your secret lover? Marcus stammered, besides what's in the agreement. I can give you another 10 million. I laughed. Marcus, do you know how much money you've taken from me in these 3 years? Marcus's expression changed. What do you mean? It means I want you to return all the money you owe me. I walked back behind my desk, took out a document, and threw it at him. This is the bill compiled by Vance's legal department. The money you owe us over these 3 years, plus interest, totals 830 million. Upon seeing the number, Marcus completely went limp. 800 million? That's impossible. Why is it impossible? Robert stood up, his tone severe. Those loans you took out in Grace's husband's name, those contracts guaranteed by Vance's reputation, and the deposit and liquidated damages you took, we have records of every single transaction. Marcus's hand trembled as he held the document. But I don't have that much money. I scoffed. Your company, your house, your car, they can all be used to repay the debt. Marcus excitedly stood up. The company is my life's work. Chloe is still living in that house, and she's about to give birth. What does that have to do with me? I interrupted him. Marcus, when you betrayed me, did you consider my feelings? When you used my money to support another woman, did you think about where that money came from? Now that it's your turn to pay the price, you're starting to feel pity? Marcus completely panicked. He rushed towards me, trying to grab my hand. Grace, please, give me a way out. I can apologize to you, I can compensate you, but please don't ruin me. I evaded his hand and looked at him coldly. Marcus, remember, I'm not ruining you, you did this to yourself. With that, I pressed the intercom on my desk. Security, please escort Mr. Marcus out. Soon, 2 security guards entered and escorted Marcus out. Grace, you can't do this to me. We're married. Marcus shouted loudly in the hallway. I walked to the window, watching Marcus being surrounded by repo routers downstairs, feeling no ripple of emotion. After a while, my cell phone suddenly rang. It was an unknown number. Grace, it's Chloe. A woman's voice came from the other end of the line, sounding very weak. I didn't hang up immediately, but waited for her to continue. I know this is all Marcus's fault, and I'm willing to take responsibility. But I beg you, can you wait until after I've had the baby? I'm more than 7 months pregnant now, and the doctor says my condition is a bit complicated. If I'm subjected to too much stress. Chloe, I interrupted her. Just say what you want to say, don't beat around the bush with me. I'd like to meet you, to apologize in person. Maybe we can discuss a solution. I thought for a moment. All right. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. I'll meet you at the cafe in the Vance Tower. I'll be waiting. After hanging up, I suddenly grew curious about what kind of woman had stolen my husband. The next afternoon, I arrived 10 minutes early at the cafe in the Vance Tower. At exactly 3 o'clock, a woman wearing a pink maternity dress walked in. Her stomach was very large, she walked with some difficulty, and her complexion wasn't good, making it clear she was not in good health. This was Chloe. She looked a bit thinner than in the photos. Her features were delicate, but there was nothing particularly striking about her. I really couldn't understand why Marcus would betray me for a woman like this. Ms. Vance, she walked up to me and bowed with difficulty. Thank you for agreeing to see me. I didn't stand up, merely gestured for her to sit down. What do you want to say? Chloe carefully sat down, placing her hands on her stomach. First, I want to apologize to you for this whole situation. I know I made an unforgivable mistake. Last night. He came back very anxious and finally told me the truth. Ms. Vance, I truly didn't know he was already married. If I had known, I absolutely would not have. Wouldn't have what? Wouldn't have been with him? Wouldn't have married him? Or wouldn't have carried his child? My tone was calm, but each word was like a knife piercing her. Chloe began to cry. I know nothing I say will help. I've already made a mistake. But, Vance, I beg you, for the sake of this child, can you give us a way out? Give you a way out? I took a sip of my coffee. Chloe, do you know what kind of life I've lived these past 3 years? Now that you two are in trouble, you suddenly remember to apologize? There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. You say you didn't know he was married, but let me ask you, how was your home established? Where did the down payment for that 15 million mansion come from? How did Chin develop so well over these 3 years, and where did its funding come from? Do you truly know nothing about any of this? Chloe's face changed. I really didn't know any of that. Didn't know? I took a document from my bag and pushed it in front of her. These are your and Marcus's bank statements. Over 3 years, your accounts received a total of 23 million in transfers from Chin. This money ultimately originated from Vance. In other words, your 3 years of happy life were built using my money. Chloe looked at the bank statements, her face growing paler and paler. She was completely speechless, simply crying continuously. I didn't meet you today to hear your apology. I withdrew the document. I'm here to tell you that from today forward, I will reclaim every single penny Marcus owes me. No. Chloe suddenly became agitated. The house cannot be sold. That's our home, and I'm about to give birth. We can't be homeless. I looked at her, and an idea suddenly came to me. You want time? Yes, just give me 2 months. After I've had the baby and recovered, we'll move out of the mansion immediately. All right, I said with a cold smile. But I have conditions. Hope ignited in Chloe's eyes. What conditions? First, starting today, Marcus is not allowed to be involved in any Chin business, including all signing and decision-making authority, which will be transferred to me. Second, all assets under your names must be immediately transferred to my name as collateral, including houses, cars, and stocks. Third, after you give birth, you must publicly apologize, confess to bigamy, and never appear before me again. Upon hearing this, Chloe's face became very pale. These conditions are too harsh. Harsh? I said calmly. Do you know how much Marcus owes me? 830 million. Even if you sold all your assets, it wouldn't cover half of it. The 2 months I'm giving you now is already an enormous favor. Chloe remained silent for a long time, then finally nodded. I agree. Good. I took out my cell phone. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., you and Marcus come to Vance to sign the relevant documents. Remember, this is your only chance. With that, I left the cafe, leaving Chloe sitting there, silently weeping. As I walked out of the cafe, I called my assistant, Sarah. Prepare a complete debt transfer agreement. We'll need it tomorrow. Also, contact a few media outlets. I'm holding a press conference. Ms. Grace, what are you going to announce? I'm announcing the fact of Marcus's bigamy and his business fraud over the past 3 years. Since they want to save face, I'll let the whole world know what it means to reap what you sow. After hanging up, I stood at the entrance of the Vance Tower, watching the bustling street. The of 3 years ago was dead. That foolish woman who would give up everything for love no longer existed. The next morning, Marcus and Chloe appeared punctually at Vance. Marcus's complexion was poor, his eyes filled with resentment, but under immense debt pressure, he had no choice but to yield. Chloe looked even more haggard. She clearly hadn't rested well last night. The contracts are all here. I gestured for them to sit down, pushing a thick stack of documents in front of them. You can read through them. If you have any questions, raise them now. Marcus picked up the contract, his face growing darker with each page he read. Grace, these conditions are too much. He the table and stood up. You're trying to force us to our deaths. I looked at him coldly. Too much? Marcus, when you used my money to support another woman, why didn't you think it was too much? Now that it's your turn to pay the price, you suddenly find it excessive? I admit I was wrong, but how is what you're doing any different from revenge? Yes, I am taking revenge, I said without concealment. Marcus, did you really think you could betray me and get away unscathed? There's no such thing as a free lunch. Chloe tugged at Marcus's sleeve. Marcus, sign it. We don't have a choice. Marcus looked at Chloe, his resentment growing. Chloe, if this happens, we'll lose everything. Losing everything is better than going to jail. Chloe's voice was weak. And we have a child, we must think about the child. Hearing this, Marcus finally fell silent. He knew that if he didn't sign this contract, more severe consequences likely awaited them. I need one condition, Marcus looked at me. After 2 months, I hope you can leave us a way out. Don't go for the kill. That depends on your performance. My tone showed no sign of softening. If you comply with the contract honestly, I might consider offering you some financial assistance. But if you try any tricks, we wouldn't dare, Chloe quickly interjected. Ms. Vance, we will definitely comply with the contract. The signing process was quick, but for Marcus, it was undoubtedly the most humiliating moment of his life. He was once the Metro City's rising business star, but now he had to hand over everything he had worked so hard for to his ex-wife. The contract is now in effect. I put away the documents. Starting today, I am the de facto controller of Chen. Marcus, you will retain only the position of general manager. But all major decisions must be approved by me. Marcus nodded through gritted teeth. I understand. Furthermore, tomorrow at 3 p.m., I will hold a press conference to announce the fact of your bigamy. This is part of the contract. You cannot refuse. Chloe's face instantly turned pale. A press conference? This will affect our reputation. Reputation? I scoffed. You wronged me, and now you want to protect your reputation? But I'm about to give birth, and if I'm subjected to too much stress, that's your problem. I stood up. Chloe, remember, you chose betrayal, and now you must face the consequences. After seeing them off, I immediately convened a high-level meeting. I announced that Vance would formally acquire Chen. The meeting lasted 2 hours, solidifying the acquisition plan. After tomorrow's press conference, Chen's stock price would surely plummet, which would be the optimal time for us to move in. The next afternoon, Vance's press conference was held as scheduled. The venue was packed with reporters. All major media outlets had sent their most experienced journalists. I appeared at the press conference wearing a black power suit. Flashbulbs flickered incessantly, and reporters' long lenses and microphones were aimed at me. To all media friends, thank you for attending today's press conference. I stood on the stage, my voice calm. Today, I will announce something about my personal life, which also involves certain commercial fraud activities. The reporters below immediately grew excited. They knew a big story was coming. 3 years ago, I married Marcus, the general manager of Chen. However, today I want to inform everyone that 3 days before our marriage, Marcus had already registered his marriage with another woman, Chloe. In other words, for these past 3 years, I have been living a lie. Whispers immediately broke out among the audience. Not only that, Marcus also used my identity to defraud multiple banks of loans totaling over 800 million. He used this money to purchase a mansion worth tens of millions for himself and Chloe, living a lavish life. And I, as his nominal wife, was completely unaware of any of this. Based on the above facts, Vance has decided to completely cease all cooperation with Chen and will reclaim all defrauded funds. Concurrently, I will personally file a lawsuit against Marcus for bigamy and commercial fraud. After speaking, I left. As I exited the venue, I saw Marcus and Chloe standing behind the crowd. Chloe was crying profusely, and Marcus's face was terrifyingly grim. But I no longer cared about their feelings. All of this was the result of their own choices. The press conference had an immediate effect. That evening, all major media outlets reported on the matter. Chen's stock price hit its daily limit down at market open, and the company's reputation suffered a severe blow. And I, the woman who had been betrayed, now became an object of public scrutiny. Everyone praised my courage and strength, calling me a role model for women. But only I knew that this victory didn't bring much joy, because the man I once deeply loved had completely disappeared, leaving behind only a strange betrayer. 3 days after the press conference, I was in my executive office processing Chen's acquisition documents when my assistant, Sarah, rushed in, flustered. Ms. Grace, it's bad. Chloe is in the hospital. I put down my pen. What happened? I heard she couldn't handle the public scrutiny, started bleeding last night, and is now being treated at Metropolitan Hospital. Sarah's face was tense. Mr. Marcus is being interviewed outside the hospital, saying that you forced Chloe and the baby's death. I frowned. Although I had no fondness for Chloe, if Chloe genuinely suffered complications because of this incident, it would indeed be detrimental to my reputation. Get the car ready immediately. I need to go to the hospital to see Ms. Grace. Going to the hospital now might be dangerous. There are many reporters gathered outside. It's fine. What needs to be faced, will be faced. Half an hour later, I appeared at the entrance of Metropolitan Hospital. Sure enough, the place was surrounded by reporters, and some uninformed onlookers were pointing fingers. Seeing me appear, the crowd immediately erupted. Grace is here. She's the one who caused Chloe and the baby's death. So what if she's rich? How can she treat Chloe like this? I ignored these voices and, escorted by bodyguards, walked directly into the hospital lobby. At the entrance to the maternity, I saw Marcus. He was sitting on a chair, his hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, looking utterly haggard. Seeing me appear, he immediately stood up, his eyes filled with rage. Grace, are you satisfied now? Chloe almost couldn't be saved, and the baby's life hangs in the balance. Is this the outcome you wanted? The outcome I want is for you to take responsibility for your actions, not for an innocent child to be harmed. My voice was calm. How is Chloe doing now? Don't pretend to be a good person. Marcus pointed at me agitatedly. If you hadn't held that press conference, how would Chloe have been so stressed? You did this on purpose. Just then, the head of the obstetrics department walked out of the maternity. Mr. Marcus, the patient's condition has stabilized slightly, but the fetus's situation is not optimistic. An early C-section might be necessary. Marcus's face grew even paler. Doctor, please, you must save our child. We'll do our best. The doctor glanced at me, clearly recognizing who I was. However, the patient's emotional state is very unstable. It's best not to stress her further. I nodded. Doctor, if you need any assistance, please don't hesitate to say so. Don't worry about the expenses. Grace, what do you mean by that? Marcus looked at me, puzzled. What do I mean? I turned to him. No matter what you've done to me, this child is innocent. I won't allow an innocent life to be harmed because of adult grievances. Just then, the maternity door opened, and a nurse came out. Mr. Marcus, the patient is awake and wants to see you. Marcus immediately started to walk in, but the nurse stopped him. The doctor said only one person can go in at a time, and not for too long. Marcus glanced at me, then hesitated. Grace, do you want to go in and see Chloe? Maybe you two can talk. I was a little surprised. In this situation, Marcus would actually suggest such a thing. Are you sure? Chloe. She's actually always felt very guilty and wanted to apologize to you in person. Perhaps now is a chance. I thought for a moment and nodded. All right, but only for 5 minutes. Pushing open the maternity door, I saw Chloe lying on the hospital bed. Her face was as pale as paper, her hair disheveled, and she looked extremely weak. Ms. Vance. Upon seeing me, tears immediately welled up in her eyes. I'm sorry, truly sorry. I sat by her bedside. How are you feeling now? I might lose this baby. Chloe started to cry. The doctor said if the situation continues to worsen, an early C-section will be necessary, but the baby is only 7 months old, and it might not survive. Seeing her suffering, I felt a pang of pity. Regardless of her past wrongdoings, she was now just a mother worried about her child. Chloe, listen to me. I held her hand. I've already told the doctor that I will cover all medical expenses. The most important thing for you now is to remain calm and take care of your pregnancy. Chloe looked at me in shock. Why would you help me? Because this child is innocent. My voice was soft. No matter what grievances exist between adults, they shouldn't affect the child. Ms. Vance, I have a request. Chloe clutched my hand. If I truly can't save this baby, or if anything happens to me, please don't make things difficult for Marcus. Even though he made mistakes, he's not a bad person. I okayed at her, my feelings complex. Although this woman had stolen my husband, in this moment, she was still thinking about protecting Marcus. You'll be fine, I patted her hand. The baby will be safe too. Walking out of the maternity, I saw Marcus waiting anxiously outside. How is Chloe? Did she say anything? She's very worried about the baby, but her emotional state is a little better than before. I paused. Marcus, no matter what issues we have between us, the most important thing now is Chloe and the baby's safety. I've already arranged for the best doctors. You don't need to worry about the expenses. Marcus was stunned. He clearly hadn't expected me to say that. Why? His voice trembled slightly. Why are you helping us? Because I still have a conscience. I looked at him. Marcus, you betrayed me and hurt me, but I won't let that turn me into a cold-blooded person. Tears welled up in Marcus's eyes. Grace. Don't call me Grace, I interrupted him. Dad died 3 years ago, the day you chose betrayal. As I left the hospital, reporters surrounded me once again. I stopped, facing the cameras. What I want to say is, regardless of any grievances between adults, children are innocent. I hope Chloe can safely get through this difficult period and deliver a healthy baby. As for other issues, they will still need to be resolved. After speaking, I left the hospital, escorted by my bodyguards. Sitting in the car on the way back to the company, my mind was a whirlwind of complex emotions. I thought I had grown hard enough, unswayed by any feeling. But seeing Chloe's pain, I couldn't help but feel my resolve waver. Perhaps this is the difference between me and the true business elite. I still retain that last bit of human warmth, even towards those who have wronged me. But some matters still need to be addressed. This is a matter of principle that cannot be changed by a moment of sympathy. Chloe stayed in the hospital for a week, and her condition gradually stabilized. The doctor said she could be discharged in a few days, and the baby was not in any immediate danger. Public opinion about me was divided. Some believed I was kind-hearted and willing to help those who had hurt me, while others thought it was a public stunt to rehabilitate my image. But I didn't care what the outside world thought. I did these things simply because I didn't want to go against my conscience. The 2-month deadline quickly arrived. Chloe had been discharged, and her baby had been safely delivered, a healthy boy. According to our original agreement, it was now time for them to fulfill their promise. That morning, Marcus and Chloe came to Vance again. Chloe held her 1-month-old infant, looking almost fully recovered, but her face still looked a bit pale. All the contracts are here. I pushed the prepared documents across the table to them. The property transfer documents, the stock transfer agreement, and the public apology statement. Marcus picked up the documents and looked them over, shaking his head with a bitter smile. Grace, you're still so meticulous. It's adherence to contract. My tone was flat. Since the agreement was signed, it must be honored. Chloe looked at the public apology statement, a desperate expression in her eyes. Ms. Grace, if this statement is released, we'll truly lose all standing in Metro City. That's your problem. I didn't waver in the slightest. Marcus took a deep breath, picked up the pen, and signed. I agree. Marcus, Chloe exclaimed urgently. Have you thought about how we'll live after signing these documents? Chloe, we owe this to her. Marcus's tone was firm. And has been very lenient. At least she's provided for the child's future. Chloe looked at Marcus, her eyes filled with resentment, but she ultimately nodded reluctantly. The signing process went smoothly, but just as the last document was signed, Chloe suddenly stood up and walked over to me. Grace, I have something to tell you. You. Her gaze sharpened, completely unlike the vulnerable woman she had seemed moments ago. I was somewhat surprised but motioned for her to continue. Do you think you've won? Chloe sneered. Do you think destroying us will bring you satisfaction? I don't know what you're trying to say. I frowned. What I want to say is, Marcus never loved you. Chloe's words pierced me like a knife. He married you only to exploit your status and wealth. From the very beginning, I was the only one he loved. The office instantly fell silent. Marcus stared in shock at Chloe. Chloe, what are you saying? I'm telling the truth. Chloe turned to Marcus. It's come to this, what's left to hide? Marcus, tell her, who do you truly love? Marcus's face turned grim. He looked at Chloe, then at me, and finally chose silence. And his silence spoke volumes. Very well, I said with a smile that was more painful than tears. So that's how it is. Grace, now you know the truth, don't you? Chloe continued. All your suffering these past 3 years, all your revenge now, it's all because of a man who never loved you. Isn't that utterly ridiculous? I stood up and walked to the window, turning my back to them. After a long silence, I finally spoke. Chloe, do you think saying that will make me suffer? She challenged me, isn't it? I turned around and looked at her. You're wrong. I just feel relieved now. Relieved that I recognized your true colors in time. What do you mean? Chloe looked bewildered. It means that if Marcus had truly loved me, I might have felt some guilt for retaliating against him like this. But since he never loved me, I have no guilt whatsoever for doing these things. I sat back down in my chair. So, Chloe, what you just said wasn't hurting me, it was liberating me. Chloe's expression froze. She clearly hadn't anticipated my reaction. Is there anything else you wish to say? I looked at them. If not, please leave. The contracts have been signed. From now on, you are free from any obligations. Marcus finally spoke. Grace, don't call me Grace, I cut him off. Remember, never appear before me again. With that, I pressed the intercom. Security, please escort Mr. Marcus and Ms. Chloe out. Soon, the security guards entered. Marcus and Chloe were asked to leave the executive office. Before he left, Marcus turned back and looked at me, his eyes filled with complex emotions. But I didn't look back at him, instead focusing on the documents on my desk, as if nothing had just transpired. After they left, the executive office was so quiet I could only hear my own breathing. Chloe's words did sting me, but she was right, that pain was necessary. It brought me to my senses, allowing me to completely let go of the last shred of lingering affection for Marcus. It turned out that for 3 years, I had been living in a much larger lie. I thought Marcus had at least genuinely loved me at some point, but the truth was, I was merely a tool to be exploited from beginning to end. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but laugh. That evening, back home, I called Robert. Robert, everything's resolved. How do you feel? Robert's voice was tinged with concern. Great, I've never felt so light. I leaned back on the sofa. Robert, I want to travel for a while. What do you think? Good idea, Robert chuckled. Where to? Haven't decided yet, maybe Europe, maybe Southeast. I just want a change of scenery, a fresh start. And the company? You and the team of professional managers have the company covered, no need to worry. Besides, with the acquisition of Chen, our capabilities have grown significantly. It's the perfect opportunity to consolidate our operations. Alright, so when are you planning to leave? Next month, I think. I stood up and walked onto the balcony, looking at the city lights. Robert, thank you for your support during this time. My dear child, don't mention thanks. You're my daughter. Who else would I support? If not you? After hanging up, I stood on the balcony, feeling the night breeze, my mood lighter than ever before. Soon, the day of my departure finally arrived. At 8 in the morning, I arrived at the airport with my simple bags. Robert and several executives came to see me off. The scene was quite touching. My dear, remember to keep in touch once you're there. Robert patted my shoulder. Don't worry about the company, I'll take care of things. Robert, you take care of yourself too. I hugged him. I'll be back once I've had my fill of adventure. Go, when you're young, you should see more of the world. Security check, boarding, everything proceeded smoothly. I found my window seat, fastened my seatbelt, and took a deep breath. The airplane engines roared, beginning to accelerate on the runway. As the plane took off, I looked through the window at Metro City growing smaller beneath me, a swirl of emotions in my heart. Here were the memories of my growth, those I had loved, and my painful experiences. But from today forward, all of it belonged to the past. I was going to see a wider world, to experience different lives, and to find the happiness that truly belongs to me. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.